Okay, this is going to be a little tutorial on how to post your motif tile and pattern files into one file that will make it easy to post into Blackboard. So if you look at the top here, I've got my ruler open, and I made sure that when I go to preferences that units and rulers, that pixels are set, not inches. This will just be a little bit helpful since we're working in pixels. Uh, the other thing is we want to go to the window and make sure that your layers are set and that your tools are set. Okay, so we'll get started and I'll talk about a couple other settings. So let's make a new file. So we're going to go File, New, and I'm going to call this 6A rotation, something like that. I'm going to set it at 800 pixels wide, 1200 high, and 200 resolution. Now the background contents, we haven't really talked about that. You can set a color, you can make it transparent, you can make some other settings. The problem with transparent is that when you do that, it kind of interferes with the way the grid will look. So I like just setting it to white. We can always change the color later. Color mode should be RGB or CMYK. It doesn't really matter. Hit OK. All right. Now let's do a couple of other things. Let's go to View and let's make sure extras are checked. And then we're going to go to View again, and we want to say Show Grid and Smart Guides. You don't really need the pixel grid, but Smart Guides and Grid we want showing. So you go to Extras, click on that, and then you have to go back and reset that. Make sure that the ruler is set, and then you want the snap. And then the other thing is you want to go Snap to Guides and Grid, and that will only work if you have Grid and Smart Guides showing. Okay, so one of the things we're going to do is we're going to bring in some guides. So you have to be on the selection tool, and then you go actually up into the ruler here. So select it, hold, and then drag a guide down. And we're going to, you can see it's going to snap right to the first line in that grid. And we're going to do this the same. So we're going to select, and we're going to drag a guide to the grid here. Then we're going to drag a guide to the grid here. This is going to make it really easy when we pull everything in. Remember, we've got View and we've got Snap to Guide and Grid. So what that's going to do is as we pull our images in, they're going to snap right in place. All right, so we're going to go File, Place Embedded. Here are all my files here. So the first one is going to be the motif and place. So this is going to work fine because it's 300 by 300. I've already set that, and boom, it snaps right into place, right to the grid and to my guidelines. So I'm going to enter, and that places it. Now I'm going to place the tile. And there's my tile. Now it comes in larger because it's a larger file. It's 600 by 600, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up and line it right up into the corner. It snaps into the corner. Now I'm going to hit, I'm going to drag the cursor until it turns into this elongated arrow, and then I'm going to hit the Shift key, and while holding the Shift key, I'm going to scale it down. And there it snaps right to the grid, so they're exactly the same size. Now I'm going to bring in the larger pattern, File, and you see it comes in quite large, so I'm going to pull it down until I snap to the grid and see how it's lined up on the side. I'm going to get the selection arrow to go in this elongated arrow, hit the Shift key, and while I'm holding the Shift key, I'm going to just drag it right to this grid, and it's going to snap right to it. Boom. And now you see that it's the same width as the two together. So it implies a new border in there. And I'm going to hit the down arrow while it's selected. I'm just going to shift it down a little so I have a little bit more room for my text. I'm going to hit enter, and that's good. Now, one of the things that I should have done is make a background copy. All right. What I want to do is, because I may want to change the color of the background, I've got everything set. So just to make it a little less visually confusing, I'm going to click off the extras. And now I can see this. It's still snapped to the grid, but now it's not so visually confusing. What I want to do is I'm going to select these three layers. So the way I do that is select one, hold the shift key, select another, and it selects them all together. And what I want to do is I'm going to merge these together. So I'm going to go to layer, and I'm going to go merge layers. And that leaves the background intact, but it's merged all this into one layer. If I wanted to change the background color, I would select background, and then I'd look in my tool palette and I'd go, well, maybe I want it to be a darker gray. This just might help. You don't necessarily need to do this, but it might make it look a little bit better, especially if you have a lot of very light values in here. Hit OK, and then go to the bucket tool, and you've got to make sure that you're on the background copy layer, and just boom, like that. So not necessary. I think this looks okay with the white. I'm just going to go edit, step backwards, and that's good. Okay. On this background copy layer, I can place my text. So what I'm going to do is, let me get this a little bit larger. I go to the text tool, and then you can use anything. This is defaulted at, I have it set at Arial rounded. You can use whatever you want. A 10 point should probably be okay, but make sure that you've got the palette set to black or some contrasting color, whatever your ground is. So if you had a black background, you'd want a white. So I'm just going to click in here, and I'm going to go motif. Scooch it over a little bit. And then I'm going to tile. All right, and then I'm going to select it, and that gets me out of that particular selection because now I want to come down into text down here. So I'm going to hit text again. It gives me a new text layer, and I'm going to call this pattern and just scooch it over. If I want to raise it up, I can go to the selection tool, select it, and then bump it up a little bit. That looks good. All right, now what I want to do is just, I'm going to flatten everything. So I'm going to go layer, and I'm just going to go flatten image, and it takes it into one flat image, and we can save it as a JPEG. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and then I just need to change it from a Photoshop to a JPEG. Save it to your desktop or wherever. Save. Okay, and you're done. Now, if you go to the image size, you can see that the width is 800 by 1200, but the instructions in the journal are to post it at 600. So you could change it in the journal appearance. As you know, you can change the appearance to 600, but why not just change it now? So go 600, hit OK, File, Save. And now it's ready to go into the journal just like that. So when you go to load it into the journal, you don't have to change the pixel dimensions. It's ready to go. So that's that.